Hello, and welcome to our first monthly reading journal video in our new 2026 reading journal. This is unfortunately getting made quite later through the month than I typically like I said in my last video, I was unwell during January and so was unable to keep up with video creation and my reading journal. A plus side of this is that I only read 4 books in January, so I could complete this monthly fill out in one session without too much trouble. For this year's bookshelf tracker, I've decided to choose a colour that represents the cover of the book that I've read rather than any particular statistic rating or genre. In 2025, I used a colour coding system based on genre and it ended up very bland as I only typically read fantasy or romance, so I wanted to change it up. This book's read page has stayed the same, however, although I may also match the month marker to the month's colour theme going forward. My 2026 series tracker is already almost half full, which is slightly worrying. However, I've been focusing on finishing and catching up on series this month, so we'll see how we go as we get further into the year. I've also changed up my pages in pixel color scheme this year. I'm using my Tombos as I now own enough for all the page range options, and I also like the more muted color tones compared to what my Monami highlighters did. I did accidentally mark the 31st in the wrong colour, but luckily I used the colour for the 151 page range mark when I read 150 pages, so I deemed it good enough and allowed myself to leave it how it is rather than trying to fix it. I'm going through now and deciding if I'll use any of my books on my bingo, which I always find harder when reading book 2 and so on in a series, as I feel like I don't know if it should count if they're already together in the series. I did, however, decide to count Emily Wilde for the he fell first trope, but none of the others for this month. Then came my alphabet challenge using book covers and star ratings. This format has definitely increased some of the repetition in this journal, but not in a way that I hate, at least not yet. And now I'm marking my best of 2026 book for January and also adding Emily to the first read in my yearly statistics. Now let's move on to the January pages and start on the book reviews. I went with a yellow plant sort of theme for my January start of month page to fit in with my Southern Hemispherian summer weather at the moment. Because the Notebook Therapy original size is smaller than an A5, I did decide to have my calendar go across both pages to give it plenty of space to fill in books. I haven't decided if I'll keep doing it this way yet, but I don't completely hate it. Let me know how you feel down in the comments below. Other than that, I'm using the same format inside the calendar as I did in 2025 to mark books, including matching a Tombow as best I can to the book cover's colour or vibe. I am also going to stick to the same format for my review page as last year, with 2 reviews per page. However, again, because of the smaller journal size, they are slightly smaller at 8.5 centimetres tall each. I may change this up throughout the year or sometimes do full page reviews for books I particularly enjoyed and have a good amount of stationery for, but for this month, these will do. This is the moment I realised that I couldn't copy my layout from last year because of the size change and because I wanted to add more information about the book. So I spent a bit of time here moving things around to try and find a layout that works for me. For now, I've decided to put my star rating inside the title area and colour it over with the same Tombow colour to blend it in. It does work quite well, but you'll see when I get to the end of this review that I forgot that I usually put the author and series name on that line, so they became a bit squished. So as well as the book cover, title and star rating, I'm also including my core pal rating, which I regret putting the green box around in this one, format, publish year, genre and dates read. And then of course I'm adding my usual little written review and decoration to match the vibes of the book. Now that I've gone through this layout, we can actually talk about the books. If you haven't watched my reading journal videos before, don't worry, I don't spoil in the voiceovers, I just give basic overviews of the book's synopsis and my feelings on it. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett is the third and final book in the Emily Wilde series, and I've been waiting 8 months to finally read this thing as I refused to buy a copy in a size that didn't match my book 1 and 2 copies. Emily is a professor from the University of Cambridge in Dryadology, as this is a world where fairies exist and humans have made up a whole field of study in them. Emily goes on big adventures in this series, and this one is a whole new style for her, but I really enjoyed all the relationships she had and how strong she was and how this tied up the series very well, giving it 4.5 stars. Next, for Christmas, my friend gave me Foxy Tales, which was a special Zodiac Academy novella written to raise money for a British wildlife charity. It's not a revolutionary book, it's just some bonus chapters from Orion and Darius's point of views from early on in the series. If you don't know what Zodiac Academy is, I'm afraid to tell you and have you fall into this hole of a world. I gave it 3.75 stars. Then I read Glow of the Everflame, which is book 2 of the Kindred's Curse series by Penn Cole. Unfortunately, this is one of those series where I can't really say much about the synopsis of the subsequent books as they all rely on the storyline from book 1, but basically Diem is a woman in a world where there are humans and there are also half-mortal people with magic, and they're both on the brink of war between the species for control. I enjoyed how Diem's character progressed and learnt more about the world outside her bubble in this book, making new friends that she never expected to along the way. I gave this 4 stars. Then I continued to catch up to this series by reading book 3, Heat of the Everflame, straight after. All I can really say about the plot of this book is that this is the obligatory main group goes on an adventure outside their home kingdom book in this series, but I actually did enjoy how the overall plot is developing throughout this one. It has made me highly anticipate book 4, which is due to come out in July of this year. I gave it 4 stars also. Now that our review spaces are done, it's time to turn the page. As like last year, I'm keeping to the single page monthly stats, which means I had this spare page on the left to figure out what to do with it. Because I finished the series and it was also my favourite book of the month, I decided to make a little Emily Wilde appreciation collage on this page. I make these by going on Pinterest and finding art, memes, quotes that give me the vibe of this series, and I make these collages. I also made a few of these collages in my 2025 reading journal, which you can see them in my last video where I did a complete journal flip through. Once I decide on a layout of the printables that I like, I usually take a photo with my phone, add some stationery underneath that I think suits the vibe, and then start sticking everything down. I like to leave room in the middle to put the series title and some other information. This time I did author and the dates read. For the title, I like to try and replicate the font used on the cover, however I'm really not very good at this skill. Luckily, this one is just a basic serif font, so I was able to get close enough for it to not look too terrible. Just adding some more little stickers to go with the vibes of the series, and then adding a little border and some star doodles just to fill up the white space a little better. With that complete, I can now move on to the January stats page. As you can see, I marked out in pencil the layout that I wanted, as I'm changing it up from 2025 to include information that I actually want now that I know, in a hopefully slightly more aesthetic look. This year, we're including the stats books read, pages read, average rating, total TBR read, average length, and average time to read. I am then making a big space for just my favourite book of the month, removing last year's format of also having the least favourite, and including the book's title, author, and rating. I then wanted to do something different for the charting, so rather than last year where I have format, page number, and genre all as pie charts, this year I'm going with ratings and format as pie charts, and then genres as a little horizontal bar chart. Because I only read 4 books this month, I marked both the primary and secondary genres in this chart, giving me 4 fantasy, 1 historical fiction, and 3 romance books read. For the rest of the stats, I read 4 books, 1,938 pages, my average rating was 4.06 stars, I read 3 out of 7 of my TBR, the average book length was 485 pages, and my average time to read was 8.5 days. My favourite book of the month was Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett with 4.5 stars, which I have just realised I've written down wrong on this page, and so my white gel pen is currently drying so I can fix that next to me. My pie charts were very easy this month, with 50% of the ratings 4-star and 25 each 3.75 and 4.5 star, and then a 50-50 split between physical and Kindle for the formats. I am once again using my Tombos to add colour to these pie charts. Hopefully as I use them more, I get better at making them not so streaky. As a little finishing touch, we are adding some elements that were used on the start of month spread to tie it all back together. With that all complete, let's move on to setting up our February start of month page. I'm going to stick with spreading my calendar over both pages again for February, as I want to trial it a few times over months with different numbers of books read to really get a feel of how I feel about it. Of course, being February, I'm going to go real basic and go with a pink love theme because why change what isn't broke? I also have a lot of different pink stationery to choose from because I love the colour, so it makes it quite easy to do this theme. I'm starting off by tearing up some of this tissue paper to stick my month header onto. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a lot more sheer once stuck into the journal, but it is a lot more visible in person than you can see in the video. I realised I needed something for my little TBR area and decided I would try and use this little print I had in my collection. Firstly, I'm rounding the corners as I am allergic to sharp edges, especially in a more romantically designed spread. To try and make it a bit more a part of the design, I wanted to try and make it look like I wrote the TBR onto the window with red lipstick by using my red Tombow. This worked out okay, however I did just have to write the actual TBR list on normally as I couldn't think of a way to integrate it into the picture, but it worked out okay. This PET tape then came in clutch for me, which I actually only realised as I started using it. It is a pink and white pre-cut floral PET tape that is also covered in sparkles, but what I didn't realize until just now is that it has a ton of small stickers like these little bubble circles that I can dot around the page to use up some white space, and they are also all pre-cut. It also had a ton of flowers of different sizes and styles that I could put everywhere. It really brought this spread all together, as well as the few other stickers I used from some of the other PET tapes, and I really like how it turned out, especially since my February from last year was probably my favourite in that journal, so it had a lot to live up to. But with that, we are all done, so now it's time to flip back and look through all the pages we have completed today. Considering the type of reading month I had, I'm really happy with how this all turned out. I had high expectations for the start of this journal, wanting to keep things that worked from last year, but also change it up and make it different for the new year, and I think I achieved that with these spreads. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, check out my December reading journal video from last year, and I will see you all next month to fill out our romantic February spread. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!